Welcome to Paul's Funhouse, where the wild and weird abound. From the serious to the paranormal, there's no telling what you'll find. Hosted by Paul and friends, they'll take you on a wild ride through the realms of the unknown and the mysteries that hide. So come on in and take a seat, get ready for a show where anything can happen and the energy will flow. Welcome to the Funhouse, where the topics change and the lights are bright. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that will keep you up all night. So join Paul and friends and let the good times roll in the world of the Funhouse, where anything goes. Let's go. Oh, oh, oh. So come on in and take a seat, get ready for a show where anything can happen and the energy will flow. Welcome to the Funhouse, where the topics change and the lights are bright. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that will keep you up all night. So join Paul and friends and let the good times roll in the world of the Funhouse, where anything goes. Let's go. Oh, oh. So join Paul and friends and let the good times roll in the world of the Funhouse, where anything goes. Let's go. Oh, oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Paul's Funhouse. Today we are going to take a look at the Salem Witch Trials. I've always been interested in this, so it was time to dive into it. The Salem Witch Trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were indicted, 30 people were found guilty, 19 of whom were executed by hanging, 14 women and 5 men. One other man, Giles Corey, died under torture after refusing to enter a plea, and at least 5 people were killed in the disease-ridden jails. Arrests were made in numerous towns beyond Salem Village, known today as Danvers, and its regional center, Salem Town, notably in Andover and Topsfield. The grand juries and trials for this capital crime were conducted by a court of oyer and terminer in 1692 and a superior court of judicature in 1693, both held in Salem Town, where the hangings also took place. It was the deadliest witch hunt in the history of colonial North America. 14 other women and 2 men were executed in Massachusetts and Connecticut during the 17th century. The trials began after a few local women in Salem Village were accused of witchcraft by 4 young girls: Betty Paris, age 9, Abigail Williams, age 11, Ann Putnam Jr., age 12, and Elizabeth Hubbard, age 17. The accusations centered around the concept of affliction, and the witches were accused of having caused physical and mental harm to the girls through witchcraft. In Salem Village in February 1692, Betty Paris, age 9, and her cousin Abigail Williams, age 11, the daughter and the niece, respectively, of Reverend Samuel Paris, began to have fits described as beyond the power of epileptic fits or natural disease to effect by John Hale, the minister of the nearby town of Beverly. The girls screamed, threw things about the room, uttered strange sounds, crawled under furniture, and contorted themselves into peculiar positions, according to the eyewitness account of Reverend Deodat Lawson, a former minister in Salem Village. The girls complained of being pinched and pricked with pins. A doctor, historically assumed to be William Griggs, could find no physical evidence of any ailment. Other young women in the village began to exhibit similar behaviors. When Lawson preached as a guest in the Salem Village Meeting House, he was interrupted several times by the outbursts of the afflicted. The first three people accused and arrested for allegedly afflicting Betty Paris, Abigail Williams, 12-year-old Ann Putnam Jr., and Elizabeth Hubbard were Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. Some historians believe that the accusation by Ann Putnam Jr. suggests that a family feud may have been a significant cause of the witch trials. At the time, a vicious rivalry was underway between the Putnam and Porter families, deeply polarizing Salem's people. Citizens often had heated debates which escalated into full-fledged fighting based solely on their opinion of the feud. Some of the physical symptoms resembled convulsive ergot poisoning, proposed 284 years later. Sarah Good was an impoverished woman accused of witchcraft because of her reputation. At her trial, she was accused of rejecting Puritan ideals of self-control and discipline when she chose to torment and scorn children, instead of leading them towards the path of salvation. Sarah Osborne rarely attended church meetings. She was accused of witchcraft because the Puritans believed that Osborne had her self-interests in mind following her remarriage to an indentured servant. The town's citizens disapproved of her trying to control her son's inheritance from her previous marriage. Tituba, an enslaved South American Kalina woman from the West Indies, likely became a target because of her ethnic differences from most of the other villagers. She was accused of attracting girls like Abigail Williams and Betty Paris, with stories of enchantment from Malleus Maleficarum. These tales about sexual encounters with demons, swaying the minds of men, and fortune-telling were said to stimulate the imaginations of girls, and made Tituba an obvious target of accusations. Each of these women was a kind of outcast and exhibited many of the character traits typical of the usual suspects for witchcraft accusations. They were left to defend themselves. Brought before the local magistrates on the complaint of witchcraft, they were interrogated for several days, starting on March 1, 1692, and then sent to jail. In March, others were accused of witchcraft: Martha Corey, child Dorothy Good, and Rebecca Nurse in Salem Village, and Rachel Clinton in nearby Ipswich. Martha Corey had expressed skepticism about the credibility of the girls' accusations and thus drew attention. The charges against her and Rebecca Nurse deeply troubled the community because Martha Corey was a fully covenanted member of the church in Salem Village, as was Rebecca Nurse in the church in Salem Town. The townspeople thought that if such upstanding people could be witches, then anybody could be a witch, and church membership was no protection from accusation. Dorothy Good, the daughter of Sarah Good, was only 4 years old, but was not exempted from questioning by the magistrates. Her answers were construed as a confession that implicated her mother. In Ipswich, Rachel Clinton was arrested for witchcraft at the end of March on independent charges unrelated to the afflictions of the girls in Salem Village. The initial examinations included physical exams where the accused was examined for unique markings such as moles and birthmarks commonly believed to be associated with the devil's influence. It was thought that those markings represented the devil drinking the accused woman's blood. Although the last trial was held in May 1693, public response to the events continued. In the decades following the trials, survivors and family members, along with their supporters, sought to establish the innocence of the individuals who were convicted and to gain compensation. In the following centuries, the descendants of those unjustly accused and condemned have sought to honor their memories. Events in Salem and Danvers in 1992 were used to commemorate the trials. In November 2001, years after the celebration of the 300th anniversary of the trials, the Massachusetts legislature passed an act exonerating all who had been convicted and naming each of the innocent, except Elizabeth Johnson, who the Massachusetts Senate cleared on May 26, 2022, the last conviction to be reversed, after pressure from schoolchildren who discovered the anomaly. The trials have figured in American culture and have been explored in numerous works of art, literature, and film. The first indication that public calls for justice were not over occurred in 1695, when Thomas Maule, a noted Quaker, publicly criticized the handling of the trials by the Puritan leaders in Chapter 29, of his book Truth Held Forth and Maintained, expanding on Increase Mather by stating, "It were better that 100 witches should live than that one person be put to death for a witch, which is not a witch." For publishing this book, Moll was imprisoned 12 months before he was tried and found not guilty. On December 17, 1696, the General Court ruled that there would be a fast day on January 14, 1697, referring to the late tragedy raised among us by Satan and his instruments. That day, Samuel Sewall asked Reverend Samuel Willard to read aloud his apology to Boston's South Church congregation to take the blame and shame of the late commission of Oyer and Terminer at Salem. Thomas Fisk and 11 other trial jurors also asked for forgiveness. From 1693 to 1697, Robert Califf, a weaver and a cloth merchant in Boston, collected correspondence, court records and petitions, and other accounts of the trials, and placed them, for contrast, alongside portions of Cotton Mather's Wonders of the Invisible World, under the title More Wonders of the Invisible World. Califf could not get it published in Boston, so he had to take it to London, where it was published in 1700. Scholars of the trials, Hutchinson, Upham, Burr, and even Poole, have relied on Califf's compilation of documents. John Hale, a minister in Beverly, who was present at many of the proceedings, had completed his book, A Modest Inquiry into the Nature of Witchcraft, in 1697, which was not published until 1702, after his death, and perhaps in response to Califf's book. Expressing regret over the actions taken, Hale admitted, "Such was the darkness of that day, the tortures and lamentations of the afflicted, and the power of former presidents, that we walked in the clouds and could not see our way." The cause of the symptoms of those who claimed affliction continues to be a subject of interest. Various medical and psychological explanations for the observed symptoms have been explored by researchers, including psychological hysteria in response to Indian attacks, convulsive ergotism caused by eating rye bread made from grain infected by the fungus Claviceps purpurea, a natural substance from which LSD is derived, an epidemic of bird-borne encephalitis lethargica, and sleep paralysis to explain the nocturnal attacks alleged by some of the accusers. Some modern historians are less inclined to focus on biological explanations, preferring to explore motivations such as jealousy, spite, and a need for attention to explain the behavior. Finally, here is the list of people executed for witchcraft during the Salem Witch Trials. The first to be executed was Bridget Bishop, who died June 10, 1692. On July 19, 1692, 5 people were executed: Sarah Good, Rebecca Nurse, Elizabeth Howe, Susanna Martin, and Sarah Wilds. Another 5 people were executed on August 19, 1692, Reverend George Burroughs, George Jacobs Sr., Martha Carrier, John Proctor, and John Willard. September 22, 1692 saw the final 8 people hanged: Martha Corey, Mary Easty, Mary Parker, Alice Parker, Ann Pewdeeter, Wilmot Redd, Margaret Scott, and Samuel Wardwell Sr. There we have it, a look at the Salem Witch Trials. That will wrap up this episode of Paul's Funhouse. Join me again next time as we dive into a few ghost stories. Until then, stay tuned and stay weird.
This is Paul's Funhouse, where the show never ends. Shallow your place, it's gonna be a wild ride. Join us next time for more fun and games like it's